What's up, everyone, and welcome to ASAP, your Afrikan Social Activism Playbook. I am one of your hosts, T. Jamal, joined as always by my sister, Michelee. What's going on with you?
Hey, bro, I'm pretty good today. I just finished cooking my dinner, so I'll be nice and ready to eat by the time we finish this.
Yeah,
I've had
that
this past week I got a PlayStation, so the only thing I know how to play that I wanted to play was Miss Pac-Man. So I've been, just whooping
Miss
my man up
Pac-Man
in
on
that.
PlayStation. That's
Yep, that's the
hilarious.
only thing. It's funny. I wanted that whole system just so I could play Miss Pac-Man.
And what you got, a PS4 or the PS5?
Yeah,
Because the PS5, I think, is
I
about to
think it's
come out
about
in
to.
like a couple of months. Yeah,
Right.
it was supposed to release this summer actually, but I think COVID mess. I don't know how COVID messed that up because you can just get
Yeah.
it ordered online, but I don't know. It may have been some manufacturing issues with like the factories and stuff. And I know
Uh,
they make a lot of those systems in Asia, so that might have played a part. But either way, I haven't been on video games in a minute. I had a
yeah.
PS3 and I kind of lost interest. The only thing that I was really hype about was Madden, and then they just started to reprint the same game every year and making you buy the same stuff just to get the new players that
Right.
came out of the draft. So you had to buy the new one if you wanted the new rookies. So it was a
Man,
jip.
this thing is a money gobbler. I'm like, how many different subscriptions, how many things you gotta
Nah,
download and pay for? It's
that's why
crazy.
I like fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Street
Right.
Fighter and
I
Tekken.
got that one. Yeah.
Yeah, those don't really upsell you too much. Once you buy all the downloadable characters, it's pretty much done.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I love those. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny that you said you are cooking your dinner to eat after the show, and I will be eating breakfast after the show. So
Yep.
for those of y'all, we're on two different sides of the world. That's one of the wonderful things about technology. Um,
Yep.
we can stay connected with one another. And COVID
Mhm.
is actually pushing us to do that. So
Right.
that's cool.
A
But
blessing and a curse.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you need the rain to make you
Mhm.
realize just how much you appreciate the sunny days, right? So
Exactly. But how you
yeah,
doing though? How was your weekend? How you feeling today?
I am okay. I just started back exercising, like physically exercising. I had a car accident back in March, like right
Right.
at the start of COVID. And I was not able to like really get my body into keep it in the type of shape that I like. So
Mhm.
I'm a little plump and I'm not comfortable. So I'm finally able to get back to exercising. I started yesterday, so I'm just trying to stay consistent. But yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully that'll
We're gonna
help
blame
me.
all this on COVID, okay? We're gonna blame it on 2028.
COVID,
We
yeah,
all got a
slips
little
and
fluffy.
falls, yeah, quarantine
So yeah,
body.
right. Exactly. I'm like,
So
man, but that's another I got on the PlayStation. One of my friends had a dancing game. So it's like I broke a sweat when I tried the dancing
yeah,
game. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do Pac-Man and I'm gonna do the little dance thing. And let's see, burn some calories.
that's funny. Yeah,
So we're
so
gonna
we
see.
just got to keep going. Another thing
Right.
COVID has done to me is I had to go get another job. So now I have a
Mm,
night job, but
yeah.
you got to take care of the family, and I couldn't wait
Right.
on the government to figure out what they were about to do with the unemployment. So
Right.
just got to do
Too
what you
much
got to
going
do.
on.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a bunch of crap. So
Yeah.
continuing on with where we left off in our last episode, last week was supposed to be 4 days dedicated to a woman's worth. So this is volume 3, which was supposed to be last Thursday's episode, but life happens.
Right.
So
We're back. We're back.
today in our Straight Truth No Chaser, we're talking about how women tend to not get the credit that they deserve in all of the things that they do in the fight for equality, freedom, and this is both women not getting the respect in the Black freedom struggle and all of the contributions that they've made, and also women not getting Black women not getting the credit that they deserve in the fight for feminism and, you know, female voting and all of the other things that have gone into female progression in the United States as well as worldwide. And it just seems like Black women kind of take they're the most fierce in the fight. They're on the front lines, all hands on deck wherever they're needed. And then they get told by Black men in the Black freedom struggle that, you know, we'll address the specific issues of women later. We need to focus on this overall Black thing. Then in the women's movement, they get told by the white women, listen, we are first to the plate. So this is an issue that I have, you know, heard by reading as well as just by being in the life of multiple Black women and seeing it, you know, as a reality. So as a Black woman, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you summed it up, like, you know, with the activities, the goings on. You know, in this situation where it's like we're constantly being put on the back burner, and to be the ones who are carrying the weight, you know, of everyone on our shoulders, it feels disrespectful. It feels, you know, like we're being dismissed and just undervalued all around, and it's really hurtful. You know, especially when you're talking about amongst your own community, you feel this way, you feel left out. But I think at the same time, we have been raised with this idea of, you know, we have to be strong. You know, I know we all have heard about, you know, the strong Black woman, and we just, you know, we tough it up. We stick it out for everybody, and being strong for not just ourselves, not just to show, you know, to not show vulnerability, but like we have to protect our children, our men, our brothers and sisters, and, you know, everyone else in between. And it's just, I don't know, it's disheartening sometimes just when these conversations come up, especially when we're talking about, you know, when Black women are speaking out, especially like in recent times, and we're saying, hey, you know, like, and especially when it gets to a point where it's like clear abuse or like, you know, something going on, and we're speaking out for ourselves and for other, you know, other Black women, and we're being told that we're lying or we're exaggerating, or, you know, like this doesn't exist. And it's like, how much more should we take? And I think, you know, a lot of times we don't complain a lot. You know, and it goes back to that whole thing of being strong for everybody. Like we don't complain a lot. We like to, you know, even when you watch like the award show and stuff, everybody is, you know, the first thing they'll say, you know, I want to thank my mama, I want to thank God, you know. And are we really paying tribute to our mothers? And like, look at who are the mothers. We are literally birthing our whole community. Every Black person is going to come through a Black woman. You know what I mean? And so are we really respecting and valuing, you know, our Black women? And this is a question like to people in the community who don't seem to, you know, who seem to always question, you know, the validity of our, you know, our pain or suffering, you know. And I think we need to just really pay attention to that.
On the point of the validity of pain and strength, this has become a very hot topic in the medical field. Like literally, Black women having to justify their pain threshold, and especially in like prenatal care and even in childbirth, a lot of Black women end up, you know, suffering a lot more because for whatever reason, the doctors and the nurses don't take their pain seriously. And I don't know the origins of that, because even like I try to go back in my brain to maybe, the time of enslavement or something like that. I don't know where this is referenced from.
I do.
Like, okay, go.
I mean, it is when we do when we go back to to enslavement and to that time period and stuff, and all throughout especially American history, we see like the father of gynecology. If you haven't already heard, like that he was a man who would like experiment, his new tools and things, of gynecology, experiment on Black women, and they didn't have a say. They did it without anesthesia.
Right.
And even in the books, I was even reading a piece not too long ago about like actually women studying. This is a non-Black woman, I think I read an article from, and she was talking about how like even in their studies, it is something in there like that they're learning, like in books, like talking about like how people feel less pain, how some people are perceived to be like more tolerant of pain and stuff. And it was just really interesting because that and I think it's that like actual tools and just painful processes being performed on Black women without they didn't have a say in it. They couldn't like reject it, as far as I know during that time. And well, they were enslaved women. And then even after that, just considering just that process period, that's all I needed to hear anyway. It's just like knowing that they use these sharp tools and these, all these painful procedures and stuff. They tested it out on Black women and didn't consider her pain, didn't consider that, like we're also human, like we bleed blood as well, you know what I mean? It's just kind of, it's just crazy. But that like literally today I have friends, even though I live outside of the States now, I have friends who have given birth and they, in recent times, and they felt more comfortable giving birth overseas because of that fear of being in the States and they might possibly die giving birth. And it's just crazy to me. It's insane. And I know that sometimes, sorry, one more thing. I know that also with them questioning, I've heard also like the claims of some nurses or doctors not wanting to give Black women more pain because we're perceived to be like, like addicts or something. And so like, claiming that we will be asking for more drugs, just for the purpose of getting high or something. It's like
Gotcha.
if I am in here in pain, why won't you believe me? And that's the thing that's constant throughout this whole conversation. I'll continue to bring it up, but how we're not believed a lot of times.
Yeah. And since we're on not believing Black women, I think it would be remiss of us not to mention this whole Megan Thee Stallion situation of being shot in the foot by some buster. And we find out that it was actually Tory Lanez that shot Megan. And then, but even before we found out, there was people made a joke of it, of a woman being shot. Like, I don't even understand how any of that was to be a butt of a joke from the beginning. Even if when we didn't know the whole story, like I'm not on Twitter like that. I have a Twitter account, but I don't like get updates or anything. So I don't really know what's going on Twitter until I listen to people on other podcasts or things that I listen to, and they are reacting to how Twitter reacted to something, right?
Yeah.
So I heard that Megan got shot, and I was like, oh man, that's horrible. What happened? So I turned to my, where I get my news, to YouTube, and I see people laughing, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with people? What's going on? And then I go on Instagram and I see like jokes about, Megan being larger in stature to Tory, because people knew they were, in the situation together. People didn't know what happened. But and it was jokes that I saw that were like 70% at the expense of Tory like making fun of him for being short, but even still laughing at the situation when a woman got shot.
And it's shot like with a gun.
We're talking about with a gun, bullets. And so I was just confused and taken aback by that. And I'm like, am I some type of alien, or is everybody else just insane?
It's I mean, like I felt like the rage that I felt when I started seeing the jokes. It was like, it was unreal, because it's like, what would it take? You want to see her dead? Like, would you still be making jokes? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just really blew me away. I didn't even have the words for it. But like the same reactions that you saw, like I saw it like straight out the gate as soon as I heard about it. Because like I saw, the buzzing on social media and stuff, and immediately I started seeing the memes, like somebody did like the Boys in the Hood seeing, Ricky getting shot and put her face on it, and it was just like, even jokes, even from women, I would see like, people saying, like it was the Harlem Nights scene, shot in my pinky toe. And it was just like, why is that funny though? Because she, even in her pain, even in that traumatic situation, she had to get on social media, and like, her best friend who was, in the, in the area, with them when it happened, she got on there, had to clear up the situation. Like, everybody is already starting all kind of, rumors and stuff. The justifications that I saw, like from people, well, if she is bigger than him, so she, could have threatened him and put her hands on him, and if you put your hands on a man, then you just got to take it, and it's like, whoever even said this is before the story was even confirmed, and people are already justifying it by saying what they perceive, the situation to be. And it just, even after the rumors, like recently, I think this past week, she got on again on social media.
She had to. That's how we found out that it was actually him.
Exactly.
She was
and
like,
so
I've been trying to be quiet.
Yeah, but I mean, like, and just imagine, because for him to feel comfortable, and his team and whoever, his supporters to feel comfortable, like, continuing to kind of put it on her and like make the jokes about her, it was just like, wow. And to also hear the fact that she did not tell on this man to protect him so that he wouldn't die. And so other people that was with, so even in her pain, like literally a traumatic situation, this woman got shot with a gun, and she is thinking about other people before herself. This is what happens. We're like, Bun B got on and gave his support, Megan, and calling out Tory and all that, and gave his personal account, like, how his Black woman, his wife, saved his life, and literally jumped, like got in front of the guy who was pointing a gun at him. This is his wife, got in front of a guy, that's pointing a gun at him, and said, and told him later, well, if he would have shot and killed me, you would at least had a chance to get the gun and kill him. Like, she's literally putting her life on the line for you. Like, this, how many times does this have to happen? And then to continue to not be believed, to continue to be like made a joke out, like, this is just, it's sickening. It is literally sickening, and it's from men and women. Like, a lot of us have also internalized that, and it's sick.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of women had to come out and apologize, and it was just crazy because I just don't get it. How is your first response to hearing somebody got shot to make a joke out of it? I don't care if it was the foot. I don't care if it was a finger. I don't care what it was. A bullet.
I don't care if it grazed her fingernail. Like
we're talking about,
what makes that okay?
A deadly weapon. We're talking about a man who, in whatever situation, if you're getting let's say he was getting beat up by a woman, there is not a point in a man's life that you should shoot. That it just doesn't make any sense. And she said that his security was in the car. So if his security is in the car, as a Black man, why do you even have a gun if you have hired security? So the whole situation is dumb. Tory is an idiot. I hope his career is over. But beyond that, we're talking about this black woman not being believed. And then we're talking about the mentality of a person to even have the thought to shoot at a person.
Mm.
I don't care what the actual story is, like all
Right.
the stuff that went into it, all the stuff that happened afterwards. I don't care how they got there. A man
Right.
pulled out a gun and intentionally shot at a woman. That is like the most, and I say man, and I keep using that word loosely. I don't use the word man loosely. Like
Because everybody ain't a man.
man,
They ain't gonna be.
man is a level of respect that has to be attained.
Yeah.
Male is just anybody with an X and a Y chromosome. And you can
Mm.
be a whatever age male, but it doesn't make you a man. And I don't think that we have the tools or the structure in place like we were talking about last week with the protection piece, right? So all of these episodes are going to thematically be linked to each other. There's a thread. So we go from this thread from protection to see this blatant lack of protection to not
Right.
only lack of protection, but us being the culprits, the
Mm.
ones to be protected from. So, like we
Yeah.
were saying in that protection episode, it is up to us so-called good black men to stand up in the case for women, to actually
Yeah.
believe, to actually speak if they're not going to be heard. But we got to get past this. We got to get to a point where women aren't begging just to be heard.
Right.
And we're talking about this whole no credit piece, and we spoke at length about women not getting credit in the fight for civil rights and the whole Black Power movement and all those things, and we're going to continue to talk about that. But today, we're also focusing on, like you said, it comes from other women,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that Black women are always at the back of the line when it comes to women in whatever movement. So there is the term feminism that a lot of people know, and a lot of people women started to identify, honestly, men and women identify themselves as feminists because it's
Mm-hmm.
just supposed to be somebody who recognizes that women have just as much value in society as men.
Mm-hmm.
That's my interpretation of
And
what
should have a
feminism on paper is supposed to
right.
be. Go ahead.
Right. And should have, like, equality when we talk about with jobs, with
Mm-hmm.
education, with, all of these different things in the society that we live in. There
Mm-hmm.
should be no justified, difference in the treatment between men and women. And so that's fundamentally what, feminists would believe.
Yeah. So with that, though, Black women align themselves with the feminist movement, but were often told to step back in line when it came to actually attaining these advances when they were to be given out and delivered. White women stepped up in the front and kind of blocked Black women from gaining those advances. And so Alice Walker, who is to me most famously known for writing The Color Purple,
Mm-hmm.
um, decided to take another route. You want to tell them a little bit about Alice Walker?
Well, yeah, Miss Alice Walker, she's a writer and activist. I think, even hearing her speak with her own words about her writing, about her artwork, she said her work is medicine, right? So she's speaking directly, from her experiences from other Black women around her, and she writes for us. That was also another important thing, to mention, because a lot of times people will ask the artist, well, why don't you, include other people? And, like, she's one of the people that's like, no, I know who I'm writing for, and what else? So I
Mm-hmm.
know that some of her writings have even been banned, like in schools, or, I guess it seems it's a little bit too revolutionary for people. It's a little too raw and too real. But yeah, I mean, I sum her up as being like an artist, a revolutionary artist. And she's very intentional with her work. So yeah, she coined the term womanism in 1983. So the concept, like this idea of what feminism or womanism and all of these things, is not new. These are not new ideas, but she kind of gave a well, like your one of your favorite words, nuance. She just she was able to define it and kind of like make a, how do you even say it? Just kind of like draw the line or just kind of make our own definition of what it is for us, because within the Black community and with our struggles in America, or worldwide really, but our Blackness is already one issue that we have. And so womanism basically is more like, how I would make the difference between womanism and feminism, is more like it's family oriented. It's including all of us, and especially just looking at the struggles of Black women and how that also affects everybody else in the community. And yeah, so that's what else. What did you hear about womanism versus feminism, or how do you define it, or have you looked into or have you got a solid definition of what womanism versus
Yeah.
feminism is?
So womanism and feminism, moving right on into our Monday morning quarterback, because we wanted to highlight Alice Walker because she is the person who is credited for coining womanism. And we talked about feminism in our last episode and what it is supposed to on paper represent, and then sometimes how it can go to one extreme or how it's not representative of everyone. So the first time I heard about womanism was in somewhere around 2009, 2010. I know I was at Georgia State in African American Studies. I can't remember whose class I was in, but it was just an interesting concept because I had never heard of, there being I don't know, like a co-construct to feminism or any type of alternative in that space, and understanding that it was necessary, right?
Right.
Because of all of the issues that Black women faced. Because like you just said, you guys are Black and a woman. One doesn't really come before the other. You exist as both simultaneously, and it goes back to that conversation of intersectionality that we had last Tuesday, the first day that we were talking about a woman's worth. So I think womanism is more representative of the intersectionality that a Black woman has to go through, not saying, okay, in the Black freedom struggle, you have to be Black first, and then we'll consider your issues as a woman second. And then in the feminist movement, we are focused on the things that have to do with being only a woman or just female. Race doesn't really play into their mindset, right? So, but as a Black woman, there's no way to not have to deal with race. And then as a Black woman, there's no way to not have to deal with the sex issue, sexism, the disparity. All of those things come into play. So I think womanism is more representative of that experience of intersectionality that Black women specifically have to, especially here in the US. Now, Black women, no matter where you guys are on earth, still have, to deal with both things. But we know the United States is called the belly of the beast for a reason, because we are engulfed and surrounded by the fact that we are not a numerical majority.
Right.
We're not a numerical majority in population in this country. And we are also we're not in the power majority either. We don't set the structure of this society. We influence it heavily, which we will get into.
Yeah.
But we don't set the structure. We're still playing by the rules of somebody else's game. So by being a Black woman, it's a double disadvantage, because when in the episode where we talked about intersectionality, there were cases that we cited that were talking about, okay, this woman tried to, say that these things were happening to her on the job because she was a Black woman. But then they decided to go in on the race part, and it was like, okay, but these things aren't still happening to Black men, so it can't be a race issue. And then another case looked at it only as a female issue, and then they said, okay, but this isn't happening to the white women, so the case is denied. But when you look at it from the specific term of this is happening to the Black women, because they're Black and because they're women, then you get somewhere. But if people aren't able to even see it in that way, or even acknowledge that that's a thing, then we have an issue from the beginning, right? So all of those issues are like why I understand, because even Alice Walker, if you read like her bio or anything, it says that she's an avowed feminist, right? So womanism isn't contradictory to feminism. It's inclusive, but it also includes other things as well. It's more representative, right? And then when you brought in the factor of it includes the family and also looking at those things, that sounds like pre-colonial African thought, right? It's holistic.
Exactly.
It's not, because the way we learn over here is so sectioned off. Like if we just look at education, right? Education in the classical age, and when I say classical, I mean going all the way back to like as far back as 500, 600 years to a Timbuktu type society, right? Where they had that type of education. It wasn't you took math class and you took literature and then you took science and you understood how all of those things fit into one another. And yes, you didn't take subjects. Everything is so subjugated and very split here in the Western thought that it integrates into how we think about everything.
Yep.
Just like when I was saying, I think it was on this show, I do so many shows, but I was talking about recently how in our society now, we are so used to putting stuff in the microwave and turning the TV on with a remote and having my phone move. We are impatient when our phone takes 2 extra seconds to load the site, because we're used to everything going so fast. With that lack of patience, we bring that lack of patience into our daily life. The same thing with splitting subjects up in school. We start to split people up into different segments, not looking at the whole, not saying that, okay, you're a woman right now and then you're Black. No, she's a Black woman. Like
exactly. And that's part of the struggle though, is that is like we're constantly being told, like, from whichever group we run to, we go to, and that's a part of us, right? My womanness is a part of me, my Blackness is a part of me, like these things, this is who I am, plus some other stuff. And so I think we gotta like just realize, like, you're dehumanizing someone also when you're trying to constantly strip away and tell them, no, wait, let's hide this part, tuck this part away for right now. And it's like, how can I, and it's even other terms for it, because people recognize that, that intersection that we do have, like as Black women and our unique experiences. Everyone didn't go through the same experiences that we did. It, you know what I mean? It wasn't said that, well, if you rape every kind of woman, that it's not counted as a rape. This is something that, you know what I mean? Like Black women, if you raped a Black woman, it was not considered rape. You know what I mean? Like because she
Also,
had no agency. Hmm.
I want to say not women of color, Black women. This was not
Yes.
a thing that
Right.
was on the books for women of color. This is
Right.
something that was on the books specifically about Black women.
Hmm.
I'm
Yes.
tired of everybody
Yeah.
being boxed in. Stop playing in the
Yeah.
crayon box,
Right.
because the people
Unless
of
y'all all
color,
gonna be on the front line too, because
exact.
we are constantly the ones who are on the front line for everyone. And and it doesn't seem fair. Like
Mhm,
I'm not the type of person where it's like, well, if you won't do it for me, if you want to scratch my back, I want to scratch yours. But after
mhm,
so long, and we keep, it's like that saying goes, you can't pour from a glass that's empty. We have to, what are we going to do for our self-preservation, and this
mhm,
other, like I was saying before, there like there has people have recognized that as Black women we do have unique experiences, just being Black and being a woman at the same time. It's other terms like misogynoir instead of just misogyny. You know what I mean? It's misogynoir because the dislike or the contempt for women, and the fact that it's a Black woman, not just any woman, but a Black woman, we get discriminated against, and all the people have their ideas about who we are and what we are, and and I think it's a problem all the way around that I think especially needs to be addressed. For one, like a lot of us don't recognize it as such an issue because, like I said, we're raised with that mentality of like, we just have to suck it up, even if that means taking a harder punch. You know what I mean? And it's just really damaging, especially when a lot of us still have these traditional ideas about, whether, about like roles, traditional roles in the family or in the household or
mhm.
whatever. We have not had a break. Even when you're talking about like other women, when they were fighting for, the right to work, Black women been working. We ain't stopped working. When Black men were not the only people in those cotton fields. Black women were doing the same jobs that Black men were doing in those cotton fields. So it's like, when have we had that break? We've had our femininity stripped away from us. So like when people joke and and talk about how Black women are so tough and so hard, and and they'll prefer other women because they softer, and it's like, when, so I don't know, it's like a double slap in the face, because when are you even going to give me a chance? We get
So
to get disrespected, we get thrown under the bus, and then we still supposed to be this whole woman all pieced together, when we can't even have that time to discover that for ourselves. Like, it's people really need to stop and think about that.
you said something about dehumanization. And dehumanization, people mostly think about it from like a degrading standpoint, right? You dehumanize me, like you demonize me and you make me less than. But
Hmm.
you also dehumanize a person when you make them greater than as well. When you deify a person, you
Yes.
dehumanize them. So
Yes.
Black women get deified into this strong Black woman role. Oh man, she can handle more. She can handle
Tell me.
everything.
Tell
She
me
can
about
do
it.
all of these things. And what it does is, in both cases of dehumanization, whether you're demonizing somebody or you're deifying them, you're stripping away their ability to just be a person. And
Hmm.
it's going to backfire, right?
Hmm.
Because it feels good for a moment when you are being deified, because it's
Right.
like, oh, I'm getting accolades, I'm getting credit, but it's really a trick
Right.
to say that, oh, they can take it.
Yes.
I can do this to that person because they can take it, because they are so strong, because they
Yes.
are so whatever
Hmm.
beyond. Or at the slightest slip of anything, because you're supposed to be so great, the expectation on you is so high that if you even come to within an inch under that expectation, you're a complete failure.
Yes. Yes.
So, like, you remember being in school and you had the kid who didn't come to school all the time, and all the teachers got happy just because this dude showed up. Now the rest of us come to school every day, got to do all the work. This dude is getting a parade just for showing up to school.
Yep.
Where on the other hand, the expectation of the rest of us is not only that we show up, but also do the work, also listen, also do all these things. And if we fall even a bit under that, we get scrutinized.
Yeah.
It's the same situation where Black women are given so much of this esteem that when they fall, when they are human in a moment, it's like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Because the expectation placed on them is unrealistic and doesn't come from them. It comes from outside so that people can hop on them. So
Right.
you get
It's like,
the
I didn't ask for
dichotomy.
all that. I didn't ask
Mm-hmm.
for all that. I didn't ask you to place me, you know what I mean, in this impossible role to where, you know, like I am human. I need time to cry. I need time to feel, you know what I mean? I get time to be frustrated. And it's so interesting because we hear all these conversations, especially, you know, when it's new discoveries being made about, you know, within motherhood, within, you know, this and that. And like, I remember when I was first learning about, what was it, postpartum depression and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, when have Black women been able to even be considered in that conversation? Like, we will be, our own families are just hypercritical of Black women. People can crack under all of that pressure of your family, being under that pressure of protecting your family, and you know, and also like just the feeling that like, well, who's gonna have me if I do crack, if I do need time and space, and you know what I mean, I need to re-up on my energy, who is gonna take over for me? And like, we're seeing, like you said, as a failure if we fail to meet those expectations. And it's like it's so frustrating to see these different you know, conversations and all of this different this do talk, you know, about all of these different situations, and
So let
just
me ask you a question.
how I don't get how we don't have the time and the space to do that.
I'm a results-oriented person, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a self-proclaimed good Black man that loves Black women, right? So for those of us forgetting the Tory Lanes of the world, forgetting the busters, right? Forgetting the people that we want to throw away. And, you know, what would you like to see from Black men to help combat this?
Mm.
What
Um,
what can we do?
yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think again, I would say, you know, like for Black men to, you know, our good Black men or men in general, whoever that we're dealing with, you know, you have Black women in your life, or you know, you have women in your life, check your fellow man. And I think we can't count out like the Tory Lanes and stuff, and you know, because those people also need to be checked. Who they have brothers and fathers and uncles, cousins. Somebody needs to be keeping them in line, or at least not making them feel welcome, not making their behavior acceptable. Because you know, we were talking a little bit before, I think last week, about how this perception of like the good man, um, feeling like, you know, he wants to just basically, when we bring this up, when Black women are saying we don't feel protected by our men, and a lot of people are quick to throw their hands up and say, well, not me, I don't do this, I don't rape women, I don't, you know. And it's like, but you have a responsibility. What I would say, what I would think a good contribution to this whole situation would be, is to talk to your other men. You know, I brought up to you last week, also just saying, bring it up just on a regular. You playing a game, you know, you playing a game together, or you just sitting there talking, you riding in the car, your colleague, you know, your classmate, whoever. Have these conversations, have it with your sons, because a lot of times, even when we talk about like sexual abuse, sexual harassment, we always want to talk about what the woman could do and how she needs to protect herself and how she could have prevented this and that. How about let's talk to our boys? Let's let them know, our boys and our men, let them know that this type of behavior is not acceptable. Because when people will start to feel outcasted for their behavior or for their, like, just crooked mentality, they won't be encouraged to do it so much. I think a lot of our men do it so much, like they feel so comfortable. It like these things happen so much. We're talking about like just domestic violence and sexual harassment and a lot of this stuff doesn't even go reported because, again, like we talked about with Megan, and I was telling you about my situation with domestic abuse, and we don't even report, you know what I mean? We don't report our Black men to protect them. And
Mm-hmm.
it just feels just so disrespectful to not like to just turn around. It's like after I did all of that for you and you hurt me, how dare you? You know what I mean? Just turn around and continue to abuse me. And I think we have to also get out of that mentality of like, oh, well, we can suck it up, or you know what I mean? Like, just for everybody else. I think self-preservation, like we need to start thinking about that first. But Black men who consider themselves, good Black men who want to help and be a part of the solution, talk to your fellow man, reflect on your own ideas. Are all tradition ain't good tradition. A lot of things that we learned, whether through our spiritual, beliefs or, our
Mm-hmm.
family traditions, a lot of these things are actually not very useful and very harmful sometimes, and we have these ideas of like keep it, like my grandmama and my granddaddy did it, and they turned out fine. No, a lot of them didn't turn out fine. They kept it together, but we
Right.
are human and we can fall apart. A lot of people don't notice until way later in life that people crack and that you can't, we are only human, and that we need the support of the village. We need everybody to be considering. So whether it's to parents who might be struggling, and speaking to directly right now in this COVID situation, a lot of people are stressed out, can't make ends meet, don't have a choice to go back to work, or whatever the case may be, and then forced to take on all of these responsibilities with their children. Check on mothers, especially single mothers, especially if you'll be one to criticize how all of these single mothers are raising these boys wrong. You can't raise a man. Go and mentor some of those young boys then in your neighborhood, or people that go more. And we need more Black men as educators. You know what I mean? Like, it's just simple things, just some small things that you can do to be involved, mentor, teach, just talk, ask if she needs help. Just, I think we can start there.
Okay. That's a good place. And you brought up a point of the so-called good Black men always going on the defense, talking about what they personally do or don't do. And it
Always.
reminds me of another thing that just happened on social media from a brother who's usually on the right side of things. And I don't know if
Mm.
you heard of it because we haven't talked about it off air, is the whole situation with Talib Kweli.
Yeah.
You heard about what he was doing? Like, there was this
Yeah.
woman and she made some comment on Twitter about Black men and Black women,
Mhm.
right? The same type of commentary we keep seeing in Talib Kweli. Oh, she said that rappers don't marry Black women,
Right,
right?
right. They're
And
not
then,
usually, you don't see them with Black women, or at least, with women who don't look, who are not dark skinned, or look,
right.
racially
And then,
ambiguous.
and then she went on the light skin thing. And
Hmm.
so Talib Kweli responded and was saying that not only was he married to a Black woman, but he started pointing out all these other people that were married to Black women. And it was like, he got banned from Twitter for like continuously messaging her and
Right.
almost like badgering her on this thing. And then he got banned, and then his fans started doing it on his behalf.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, okay, is that the way to respond?
Hmm.
If you disagree
Yeah.
with something, you could either, like we said last week, you could ignore it, You can
Right.
respond in a reasonable way. You can try to have a dialogue. Like, there was this thing that J. Cole did where Lil Pump was like being funny, and he kept having these little videos saying F J. Cole and like doing little subs at J. Cole. So J. Cole took it upon himself to have a sit down conversation with Lil Pump, and he found out that Lil Pump was just trolling, trying to get his name like out there. And so he just picked J. Cole's name out of the sky and just started, messing with him on social media. But
Right.
we didn't hear anything that J. Cole did about it on social media. He sat down and had a conversation.
I
So
remember that.
even if that's not possible, even if you can't find this woman or you don't want to, be one-on-one, there's a better way to have this conversation. There's a better way to do this. And also, before you just so great, you offer an alternative to the statement. That's a good way to combat a narrative that is being, created. And then you let it go. And you move on to something else, and you let your life go. And if that person is continuously pushing that narrative, then whatever, but you've already made your point.
Right.
You've
I remember when this situation happened, and I actually defended Talib Kweli at first, because because I know him as someone who does speak on behalf of Black women in particular. And so I think, this was like this is something he went overboard. So by the time I caught it, I read up on it was pretty early on like what had happened, and I saw her original statements, and somebody else had actually tagged him as one of the Black male rappers who's married to a Black woman. And so he felt, offended, by that, her claim is that, well, because she kind of moved the goalposts, and she was just like, well, she ain't dark skinned or something like that. And it's just like he went on the defense, for his Black woman and, other Black women who are like, because that's also a thing with colorism within our society. And we already know this. We go this with this light skin, dark skin thing. And I've been through that, that personal experience of like, why are you going so hard about Black people and Blackness, and you ain't even that Black? And you know what I mean? It's kind of like even lighter skinned women are dealing with that, you know what I mean, of push and pull with our own identity and our, how we're not valid, not seen as valid, or taken seriously, or, we have these privileges and stuff because of, if you have lighter skin versus dark skin. So, it's so many different layers to it, but he did go overboard with that situation. Like, he should have just stopped, and it should have been other people to just be like, okay, maybe pull him to the side, like, all right, you made your point. Just, just chill out.
That's my point of bringing him up. Nobody checked him.
Right.
They said, bro, you made your point. You were correct in making your initial point. Let it go. Where is the accountability? I just saw T.I. get on live or something where he recorded himself, and he was like, I just can't believe somebody would do that. He couldn't believe the Tory Lanez situation. And that should not have been the response. I'm not saying that T.I. came out saying that he didn't believe her. He was just at a loss of words, the figurative statement, I can't believe something like this would happen. And I couldn't believe that he would do it. So he was encouraging Tory to come out and speak up, right? And say something. But it should have just been, you messed up, bro. And we need to have a conversation. And he should have said it offline.
Yes.
He should have called up Tory. I'm pretty sure T.I. can get Tory's number and be like, hey, bro, what is this we hearing?
Yeah.
It should have been T.I. It should have been Diddy. It should have been Drake. It should have been whoever. And we don't know who did what, right? We don't know. But I'd rather not know and be comforted by at least the idea that somebody did it.
Yeah.
And because we assume now, we feel safe to assume that nobody did check him. Because there is no evidence of a culture, especially in music or in this pop culture type thing, where there is a place to check people.
Right.
Like
Right.
Snoop went too far in his attack
With
against
Gail.
Gail, and it took Jada to check him.
Yeah.
But nobody was checking him.
Yep.
Gail, in my opinion, initially was wrong because they purposefully chose a woman who was close to Kobe to have that interview, to try to use her womanness to pull out, you know, this whole, to drudge up the allegations.
Right.
So that was foul. That's foul play. Right? Man recently deceased. However, the response doesn't match the crime. The punishment doesn't match the crime. And so, but nobody checked Snoop. No male rappers, no male peers checked him.
We kind of just dapped him up in a way. We made it okay because it's like, oh, well, he's defending Kobe's honor.
Right.
And so, not, you know, just ignoring that whole, you know, fact that he just verbally assaulted this woman and just, I don't know. It's weird, but we give room for that. We give that space. Like, even when we look at images, even when it's not like aggressive, like violently, you know, aggressive, we look at like images that we put out that we are a part of. We like to all day, every day talk about how to you know, the man is controlling these images and messages in our music and stuff. We have the say to not participate, to not support it. You know what I mean? It's always going to be somebody who will be willing to do it. So a lot of people like to use, like back when it was just, you know, mostly like the video vixens and stuff, like back in the day, is like back then, even when I was younger, I was thinking like, well, you know, it'll always, we can tell women that we shouldn't do this, and you know, don't just portray yourself like that. Don't allow yourself to just be used. And I was just thinking, like, I think maybe I saw a conversation with one of the famous video vixens talking about it at the time. And it was just like, well, there will always be somebody who's willing to do that job, right? They're paying, somebody's going to want to take the money, is going to want the attention or whatever. But we cannot use that as an excuse to be like, oh, well, see, they want it. They like it. They're willing to do it. And, you know, because now when we have these conversations, when we see women like Megan and Cardi and stuff, you know, we see them now, they're not talking about, you know, prostituting themselves. A lot of people with the new song, and I saw your conversation on it on the other show, but the conversation around it with men justifying how women are treated, how Black women are seen and treated, is being justified by how they show themselves, how they're, and it's like they're being made to be like prostitutes or like, you know, abusers of men. They had not one man in that video. They were talking about enjoying their own, you know what I mean? Talking about, like, this woman is talking about what she is doing with her own husband. And still, that's not good enough. We can't talk about our own pleasure. We can't talk about our own pain, anything without permission from men, apparently. We don't ever have the right to do that, to explain, to express on our own. It has to be with somebody else's permission. Otherwise, it's being justified. Well, this is why you get done like this. No, a lot of women have internalized those same harmful messages because this is what's accepted. Even when you talk about women. Yeah, go ahead.
I purposefully listened to the song again because I had only heard it once, right? And then I listened to it. I was like, okay. And then she said, I got this ring because of this WAP. That's a ring, a wedding ring. Like, she's talking about, and there's nothing in the song that suggests that they're just saying they slinging this WAP around, right?
Whoever gonna pay.
to whoever
gonna pay,
right?
Gonna get it.
So they're just bragging on themselves, saying, I got what's good. And it's to the person that gets it, they're lucky, right? The same way that men talk about whatever we talk about in music. So it's just,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's just interesting because it takes me back to the place of demonization and deification.
Mm,
There's no human, there's no room to just be human,
mm-hmm.
right? There's no place for the either you're so perfect, I'm gonna hold you up here, or you're so horrible, I'm gonna put you all the way down on the ground or under the
Mm,
ground. And it's like, no, the nuance is a human being has the capability of being everything,
all of the things.
good, evil, and
Right.
it's not a dichotomy. It's not just a strict dichotomy. There is a spectrum that we're all on. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I just want to sit in the floor and eat and watch cartoons.
Right.
And it can be seen as lazy. Sometimes I may be fully on my exercise kick or fully on my I gotta work. That can be seen as overly aggressive. Bro,
Right.
everybody has the tendency to do all of it and the capability. And it's
Yes.
just, I was bringing up Talib Kweli to bring up accountability. I was bringing up Snoop to bring up accountability. I was bringing up Tip to bring up accountability. And accountability is responsibility on both sides. I believe that men have to be accountable to each other, and we have to be accountable about our thoughts about women. And then women have to be accountable to one another
Mm-hmm.
as well as when I come with the question, I would like not to be beat down by asking a question about how we can help, because that's one of the things, because you've not been heard for so long,
Yeah.
that it's a trigger, because it sounds like a trick. And that's one of the things that, even back to the Talib thing, he was clearly triggered. And we talked about
Right.
this last week, where people don't recognize their triggers, and so it just flies them off the handle.
Absolutely.
That's another part of being accountable. Be accountable to yourself to identify your own triggers so that you know how to check them.
Right.
But we also need other people to check us when we are tripping, because you get
Yeah.
another down part of being deified is, like, we saw Talib's name and we was like, okay, that's Talib Kweli, such and such.
Right.
I expect him to be on some sensible stuff. Sometimes you
Right.
buy into your own hype and you think that you're making the right points all the
Very true.
time. And
Very
being
true.
deified can harm you in that way too, because you become self-righteous and you don't
Boy,
think you can make any errors.
so this is the thing. This is a personal experience of mine, right? And
Mm.
I call it out. I tell people all the time, and I try to make a joke of myself. Like I talk about like flaws that I have and mistakes that I make, and and like even if I'm talking about something like more serious on a more serious note, and I'm addressing, like black either people of my community or like whatever group I'm addressing, I make sure I'm
Mhm.
saying like we, you know what I mean? Because and I'll give a personal example of how I have failed or fallen short in this
Yeah.
situation, because a lot of times people will be like, they'll come to me and be like, oh well, Michelee be on this stuff, and oh, you listen to that kind of music. Like it's so funny when I'm around people like in a more laid back setting, like at a party or something, and I'll be dancing, I'll be getting down, right? Like I'll be, I don't be shy, whatever. And people be like, oh, what, you dancing, you know the words to that song? And I'm like, I am a person too. Like I can also enjoy myself. Like I don't know, people assume that I'm always just so serious and sensitive about things. And it's like I can be all of these things. I can be playful and like I'm very silly. I'm laughing 80% of my day. Like I'm not sitting there with a stone face. Like I'm enjoying myself. I play games. I listen to music and dance all day. I sing in the shower. Like recognize me as a human being. I am not just this one. I'm not only allowed to be this one thing, because I think when I get into other situations, like dealing with some people, they'll have this idea about me. And it's like, sometimes I'll be like excluded because it's like, well, I didn't think you like that. I didn't think and I'm like, why can't I have the space to be all of these things? I can care about my people and be serious and really, working on myself. I can do self-reflection and still work on my flaws, because I'm flawed indeed. Like, I have my flaws. I am working on myself constantly. And I'm always, I'm coming short a lot, and I'm letting people know, like, why I still think that these things are important, and I'm thinking about these things. I want you to also understand that I have the space. I should have the space, just like I will allow you the space to make mistakes, to be wrong sometimes. My opinions are not definite. I'm sharing my point of view. You know what I mean? And if we're talking about conversation like you and I have all the time, we're talking about being able to have conversations with each other. That means you can say something, I can say something. You can disagree, I can disagree.
Right.
And like right now, it's just like the conversation is like so toxic, because now we can access everybody else's opinions and call out what we think is wrong, or big up what we think is right. And it's just like, it's so definite. And it's just like that. I think that we need to really just allow ourselves to be human and be whole.
One
And
of
we
the
can
things
change our
that,
mind. Yeah.
and I said this before, one of the things that really kind of saved my life was seeing a picture of Martin Luther King playing pool.
Right.
And he was like playing pool with some of his friends. And he was already Dr. Martin Luther King, because he really didn't have that much time in his life where he wasn't Dr. Martin Luther King. Because he started pretty early, but he was playing pool. He had like the behind the back shot and was looking smooth. And like prior to that, every picture of him that I saw was so serious. Him giving a speech, him marching, him doing something serious. So in my brain, and the same thing with Malcolm X, the same thing with a lot of our other leaders. So in my brain, I had convinced myself that, okay, after high school, this is going to be like my last time to have fun, because I'm about to go on this road of wanting to be, a Black leader. I know I want to dedicate my life to the advancement of Black people. I know I want to be some type of activist. I know I'm too involved into this to not do something with it. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I have to get all my fun out now. Because, Malcolm X them, they didn't have fun.
Right.
They
They
didn't
was
do
serious.
anything. They were always serious. When you see Huey P. Newton, he's always serious, right? Black glove, leather jacket. And it's like seeing that photo like gave me life, because I was like, bro, I'm trying to do something that's literally impossible.
Right. But imagine what that does to you, though, to your own, like, you are stripping yourself of that joy. And I think that's something, especially in our struggle, especially for people like you and I, who are very serious about, like, really, the advancement of our people and like the healing and all this stuff. It's serious work. We are the main ones who need this type of enjoyment in our life, like constantly infused. I make sure that I am playing games, I'm listening to music I like, I'm enjoying myself, I hang out with girlfriends or whoever. Like, we have to make sure that we are doing that. That's how we will be, like, remain sane. Otherwise I will be miserable. We have to do that.
I put up on the screen, I am ellipses. This is my favorite thing to post on social media.
Yeah.
I post this more than I post anything else. And this is like my go-to tag when I can't think of anything. It's an affirmation.
I remember that being your social media handle.
Yeah. It's an affirmation. It's like, I am, like me telling me that I exist. But it is also letting people know that I am ... fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I'm it. Because I'm just a human. You're going to see me high. You're going to see me low. You're going to see me in the middle. You're going to see me to the left. You're going to see me to the right. You're going to see me going around a circle. You're going to see me as a square. Whatever. I'm all of it. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I have so many people ask me, oh, what are you interested in? Well, I like anime. I like Marvel movies. I like reading books about Black people. I like
Right.
writing papers. I like all of that at the same time. Yes, in the
Right.
same person.
At the
Because
same
people,
time.
it is like I want that for our black women, and I don't think they have. I don't think we give black women the I am moment to just
No,
be, because
no.
you are always like boxed into something. I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a daughter. I am this, because it's
Yeah.
like even the way society is set up is like you go from being a daughter directly to being a wife, directly to being a mother, and then you're
Right.
never just you.
Right. And it constantly
So,
criticized, constantly pushed and pulled into what the
mhm,
definition of a woman is. You go to any type of community, even within our black community, you got all these different, all these different types of black people with their different beliefs and stuff, because we're not a monolith. We don't all have the same belief system. We weren't all raised the same, and so we are constantly trying to fit ourselves and other women, other people into into all these different boxes. And I
mhm,
like, let me give a quick shout out to my dear friend, my homegirl Shanisha. This girl, she created a platform called Black Moms Blog. Anybody should check that out. Everybody should check that out. And she always like reinforces this idea that she is affirming her womanhood and being a feminine woman. And because this perception of like, especially when you go into motherhood, um that you have your whole life is dedicated to your child. Everything is, now you don't have any type of say so over your own life. It's just all about that child. And then, when you're married or in a relationship, it's all about your man. And so, or, whoever you're with. And so, she always makes it a point, she dresses, in her heels and put on her makeup and also encourages other black women. And I'm inspired by it, and I'm not even a mother yet, but just this reminder of that you can be feminine too. You can be soft. You can wear pink and purple, or you can wear green, and you can still be feminine and sexy, and you know what I mean. And don't worry about what everybody else is saying about your femininity or your womanhood. You have the right to define yourself and your womanhood, your femininity. You know what I mean? Like that's basically what it's going to take for us to take control. And that's my challenge to other women. And I'm constantly telling them, because I don't fit into anybody else's boxes. You know what I mean? Like I
mhm.
have, there are other different expectations put on you by family, friends, whoever. And I'm always telling people I will purposely go against the grain just to show you I'm not about to fit in your box. But I think
So
also, yeah, go ahead.
my mother just wrote a book. It's called
Mm,
Damn, I Forgot to Love Her. And
mm,
on the book cover is her looking in the mirror.
mm,
And in the book, she talks about all the things, all the people, and all the different groups of people, whether it was the church, whether it was her family, children, husband, all these people that she gave out so much love to and
mm.
forgot to replenish herself with taking care of herself. And this is
Right.
not, and this is a story that, now that it's out, everybody's reading it. And the women that read it, especially, are saying, you wrote my story, because
Mm,
that's something, and especially the black women.
right.
And, you know, my mother, just being a black woman, has always felt like she's just naturally a giver.
Mm,
That's the type of person she is. She gives, gives, gives. And, you don't really realize until you are on E that you're not getting that same reciprocation back.
right, right.
And in the book, she gives steps to how to love yourself. The fact that you can't really love anybody else until you love yourself. That's how
Mhm.
toxicity and all those things start,
Right.
because you get so empty that you start to resent the people. They
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is an excellent point, because you see a lot of bitterness. You see a lot of anger, and you know what I mean, just mad at the world, to where it's not even focused now. It's not even focused to who hurt you, what hurt you. Now, because it's so much, it's so jumbled up, you know what I mean? And then everybody is going to get it. And that's what I was talking about, of giving women, especially black women, that space to be human. to focus on herself, take some responsibilities off of that woman. I listened to a woman, a video the other day about, it was a woman basically kind of cursing out her daughter who was trying to hand off her children to her, like, well, you the grandmama, you supposed to babysit. She like, no, I didn't live my whole life. I didn't raise y'all as a single woman. I'm not taking care of y'all kids. This is my time to live my life. I need to, and I was like, yes, I'm clapping for her, because that is what we need to do. Because we are seen again as a failure if we don't do all of this, if we don't go above and beyond. And that is so dangerous to us, because we won't have a cup, you know what I mean, for us to even pour out of.
Look, in society, men are constantly encouraged, or young boys going into young men are constantly encouraged to have their I am time period.
Yes.
The time before you get married, to go out and sow your royal oats, or however you want to call it. Just enjoy your life, because the responsibility is going to hit you.
Yeah.
I don't know of any time in life where girls are encouraged to have the I am moment. And I'll just go, okay.
I'll tell you. Never. We don't.
Right.
We don't.
Yeah.
We
That's
don't.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know myself. I can't think of anything, because from just being a daughter, you have the daughter expectations, no dating, this, these restrictions, this over that, and make sure that you do this to make sure that you're living up to these standards from your parents. And then the way society is structured, you're supposed to leave your parents' house and go directly into your husband's house. Now, it doesn't work like that in the modern age most times, but it's still the set expectation. That's still the mandate, right? And if you get to a certain age, we all have watched shows like Girlfriends and Sex in the City, where it's about middle-aged women, and the expectation is they are failing in life because they're not with somebody yet.
That's the thing, though, is that when we do see this occurring, and I have a girlfriend here that I joked about it, because we'll observe like older Black women, and they're finally living their lives, right? And it's, I had to stop and reflect on that. Like, that's crazy, that I am moment, like that moment where we're supposed to be, like you said, men or boys have that time to discover themselves and make all these mistakes and do this and that. Young girls are not encouraged to have that type of freedom. This is the time where I guess you can take that pushing and pulling, that fitting in, that stuffing into a box, as that period of like, let me see how many boxes I can fit into. Let me, get uncomfortable. That is our time. That's our learning process. That's the curve, right there. And because we'll be like judged to be this type of woman, this type of girl. You know what I mean? We'll be quick to be rejected. We don't have a space and time. Think about women, think about girls that you went to school with, maybe, who are considered like for the rest of their lives, probably men to this day, after at your 10-year high school reunion or 20-year high school reunion, people talking about, oh, she was the hoe, oh, that's the hoe. Like, women didn't have that time to, you know what I mean, to have to make mistakes, to explore themselves, to discover like anything, because we'll constantly be the ones under the microscope, and that'll define us for the rest of our lives. A lot of women do have to go outside of their communities, go outside of their area, outside of their country, to be able to be themselves, to kind of start over. And I'm like, in my experience of being an expat, and there are a lot of Black women. I think we are kind of dominating this space, especially like teaching abroad and stuff. There are like majority, what I've seen, majority Black women who are stepping out doing this, and I see like the joy, see these women traveling the world, living their lives, and they're like 40 plus. And I'm like, I'm not gonna live my life now at 30 something. I'm not gonna like, hold myself back from experiencing life to try to fit myself in somebody else's box. And it's like, I've seen it. We've seen it over and over again. I see the stress. A lot of us see strength in the women who have taken on all these roles and carry all these burdens for everybody else. I'm not gonna choose that. I'm not gonna see that as just, oh, that's just strength. It's something to look up to. I think it's stress. And why would I want to carry extra stress? Like I'll encourage you, I'll help you, you know what I mean? Like to encourage you to carry your own burdens, but I can't carry your bag and mine.
So I think we've come to a point where, we understand that our Black women are underappreciated. There's a heavy lack of appreciation of who they are and what they bring to the table and their value. So one of the things that I am charging myself with is the accountability to not only check other men, but to check in on women and just to be an ear, like just listen sometimes, because this is the thing though. Another thing about men, and then we'll move on to deconstructed, because I think we're right on the cusp of that. And it's a perfect deconstructed for today too. I thought it would be, but it's just perfect. Men, sometimes we want to just jump in and fix something, right? We want something to do. Give me something to do so I'll know what to do. And sometimes there's nothing really to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just listen and actually
simple.
just that's
Thank
too
you for
simple
saying that.
though.
Thank you. I needed that message, especially coming from a man, that is needed to come across. Sometimes it is just listen. Go on and finish your point, because I love that. Go ahead.
It's so simple that it goes right over our heads though.
Yeah.
That we don't see it. We like, hold on, am I supposed to be fixing something? Like,
right.
Can I, and maybe we need to listen while we're doing something. Maybe men are just wired that, okay, if you want them to listen, go unscrew the pipe under the sink.
Right.
Tell him to tighten it up and then talk to him while he's doing that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or need your oil change and have him go change your oil and then tell him what's happening. Or ask him to come open up the jar of pickles or something. Maybe we need something to do because we're not trained in that way. We don't listen to each other, which is why the lack of accountability exists within men, because we barely ever talk to each other about real stuff. The first time a lot of us talk to anybody about what's going on is our woman. The first woman that we trust in any type of relationship is probably the first person that we've ever told a lot of intimate stuff to, a lot of been vulnerable around. So we're not vulnerable with each other. So those conversations don't get brought up. And so it has to be prompted to be told, okay, check other men. Because this isn't my thing. I ain't got time to be teaching no grown ass man stuff. That's a man. He better go figure that shit out by himself. Like, cause it's like, look, man, I'm not about to be babysitting no another dude. And that's just the mindset. But at the same time, by doing that, we let a lot of stuff slide. It's not that we're intentionally letting stuff slide a lot of the times. It's the fact that, bro, that's a grown man. That dude is going to have to deal with the consequences of whatever he's doing. But we not understanding the power position of saying, I could prevent him from doing harm to somebody else by just checking it. Not holding his hand, not babysitting him, not even looking at it in that way. Right. But that's another thing that comes into just the way we are conditioned. But we talked about women not being deified, not being demonized, but being able to be human, and also having the I am moment of discovery. So Rhapsody, one of my favorite rappers, came out with an album. Was it this year? Time doesn't really exist anymore. Was it 2019 or 2020?
I've been listening to it for a while. I'm pretty sure it was 19. I've been listening to it for a minute.
A lot of people are believing that a lot of stuff came out in 19 that I can remember that came out this year, but honestly, I don't know. So we'll say it
I
came out.
want to say okay, maybe I'll take
I
that L if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure. No, because I think I was listening to it in Ghana and stuff too. So
I
that
know
was
it came out within the last calendar year, so it hasn't been out for a whole 12 months. I don't.
2019. I just confirmed it on my
Okay.
title.
Okay.
2019.
So she came out with an album called Eve, and it's called Eve in honor of the first woman to ever walk the planet. And it's every track is titled after a woman of influence, whether fictional or somebody who really exists,
Mhm.
historical and present. And every song is a reflection of, kind of what that woman represents. You can
Right.
hear it in the lyrics and you can kind of get it. It's not so in your face. Like she's not preaching to you, but if you understand the references, you'll understand, okay, I get why this song is called that.
Right. Right.
But it's like a very dope concept. It's a very conceptual album, and it's great music. But it shows what she is showing, and everyone is a black woman. All the names are black women, and she shows you the diversity, the variety of who women can be.
Mm-hmm.
It goes into that topic of having that I am moment. All of these women, black women, and I don't think any of them are the same.
Mm-hmm.
All
All
of them
different
have
walks of
different
life.
walks of life,
Mhm.
skill sets,
Right.
interests,
Right.
everything. So you
Yes.
go ahead and you
Oh
show
man.
your love for the album.
I'm when I tell you Rhapsody, when I first heard the first time I heard about her was on a Kendrick Lamar track. And
Yeah.
from what I mean, she quickly like rose to like my top five, artists, period. And it was like no doubt about it. And let me just say something like about the artist, because I've seen like, commentary on her,
Mm.
and just her music and stuff. It's always, you know, she is, well, I consider her mainstream only because I listen to her a lot. Like that's who I'm listening to. I'm picky with my music and who I
She got
choose
a
to play.
Grammy
And
nod, so that brings her
yeah,
into some type of public consciousness.
right. Yeah, but it's still like just the space for women in hip hop is pretty narrow if you don't fit a certain, your image isn't a
Aesthetic.
certain thing. Yeah, and and so she's kind of in that space of like that tomboyish, like you can't put her exactly, you know what I mean? Like you can't put your finger right on like what she is. People are just itching to like put her into a box. But I saw some interesting commentary and I've heard her speak on it. How like after her album came out, you get all these reviews and stuff on the hip hop albums or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a woman actually who said something, like a black woman who actually came out and said something like kind of pin Rhapsody as being like a pick me, because you see some men who is like using her. Some men used Rhapsody to be like, see, this is how women, if women want to be respected in hip hop, this is how they should be. And so she had, by constantly like making sure well, I don't know if this is what she intentionally does, but I feel like how we were just talking about on her album, on this most recent album, she has made a point to like put different types of women, different interests, different, aesthetics, all different, types of women out there. I feel like she does kind of represent, make it a point to represent all types of women and not putting down one type of woman or different types of women to, make herself, seem like anything. And I think that's
Right.
one thing I really appreciate about her. Like before the actual music, a lot of times like I am paying attention to who is putting out the music. Like I appreciate the
Yeah.
whole artist. That she's dope, like the one of the dopest lyricists. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you cannot deny her skill. You can't deny her, her talent. And so she is one person who I like definitely I look up to as a hip hop artist. And actually in a time where I was kind of like I wanting to give up hip hop because I couldn't take just the misogyny. I couldn't take just the constant like, or just having to accept as a woman, having to accept, well, if we're going to be in this space, then we're only allowed to be, to look like this, to sound like this, to talk about this, and so I was like in the space where I was kind of wanting to give up on it. Like, should I just stick to my oldies? Should I just go with what I know and what and she just kind of like redeemed that whole just hip hop space for me. And yeah, I appreciate her so much. Everything from like the features who she has on her album. I'm a fan of everything. It's actually a very well put together album. The poetry in between, like, oh my God, it's just I get chills when I listen to this album. I listen to it all the time, like literally.
One of the cool things about Rhapsody and Cardi B is that they actually know each other and they have a relationship. And Cardi
Yeah.
B is always shouting out Rhapsody,
Yeah.
saying, especially when people try to dog Cardi, she was like, there are artists out there like Rhapsody that you
Right.
guys should be listening to. If
Right.
y'all want to listen to that, I do this
Hmm.
because this is
Hmm.
who I am. That's who
Hmm.
she is. She's not going to try to
And
be
what
somebody
she
else.
wants to do. That's
Right.
what
And
she wants
Rhapsody
to
is
do.
who she is. She's not trying to be a pick me, trying to
Yes.
be something just because. That's who she is.
Right.
Because if she just wanted to do something to get attention, she would do what clearly sells more than anything. Right.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just ridiculous that another black woman wrote an article that's pigeonholing another black woman, not giving her the space to be whoever she wants to be. She
Right.
can't even have her I am moment in making an album and even being the positive side because it's
Yeah.
like you are doing this on behalf of just because you're being used by some people. Like I get used by people to say now this is a respectable black person.
Right.
Like I used to
Right.
get done like that all the time in school. And it was like I didn't do anything but be me.
Right. Now
I
you
didn't
about to
tell
have
them to
everybody
use
hating
me.
you.
Yeah, I didn't tell them to use me as no example, right?
Right.
So it's just it's weird the space, right? So back to the accountability piece. Like this album is supposed to be a reflection of all types of women. Like there's a song on there for everybody. There's a
Everybody,
song that
literally.
represents every woman and every black woman. And it's just like, okay, now even that is going to be overly criticized. And I call those people overly intellectuals.
Yeah.
They so intellectual that they sound dumb. Right. And so it's just sometimes we want to be so critical and it seems like we are the most critical when it comes to us. Like
Yeah.
just give credit to where it's due. If she was out here deifying herself and being self-righteous, that would be another story. But any interview, it's the same person every time, right? It's
Yeah.
consistent. And consistency shows you it's supposed to show improve. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's just not good enough for anybody.
Right. And
And
I'm
it's
constantly begging people to just let me be human because I also don't want to be pitted against other women like, well, this is what you should or shouldn't do. Why
mhm,
can't we all? And then like again, like I said before, we are allowed to, even if I want to do this right now, I can change my mind and turn around and do this. And I do this. I find myself like constantly expressing this, not necessarily intentionally, like not for anybody else, but for
mhm.
myself. I might have my hair one color and one style, then the next day or the next week, I look like a completely different person. And it's like I give myself the space to do that. I have tattoos, I have piercings. I can, you know what I mean? I'm like I can be very professional and and speak very inspirational words and all kind of stuff. And then I can have my little ratchet fun with my friends. And like, why can't I be all of that? I want us to first allow ourselves to do that. Like women, seriously, you have the right to do that. You have the right to be your whole self, whoever you are. Define your own space. And if you want to change space, if you want to be a hermit crab and turn around and pick up another shell next week, you can do that. Okay, it is never too late. Like we just have to. It starts with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, women, give yourselves permission to be. The whole point of I am, like, I am is one of those. Am is one of those verbs. It's an irregular verb. The form, the original form is be, to be, being, existing. So, like, just allow yourself to be who you are, and don't allow other people to box you in. Men, we have a key element to play in this by understanding that women are, dot, 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 people.
Yeah. Right.
And just allow humanity to flow through women as well. And it's necessary for us to give each other permission to just be, because everybody gets placed in boxes from time to time. But Black women seemingly don't really, even just because of expectations and the weight of a lot of things, don't allow themselves to just be a lot of the times. So this comes down to accountability and having these types of conversations and being able to have these. We can't hold it in until we have that trigger moment, or we can't hold it in until we get on E, until everybody is bitter and everybody is defensive, because we don't get anywhere like that.
I was just about to say we won't get anywhere.
My whole goal in having these platforms is progression, moving forward. If all we're doing is like playing tennis back and forth, I don't want to play ping pong. Right. I want to get somewhere. Like, we just bouncing the ball back and forth across the table. That's not my preferred game. I would rather, us do a relay where every generation we are moving forward. Yes, we're getting somewhere. We're advancing. But if we keep just waiting to have these conversations in little spurts, or what happens when everything is cool and everybody's happy, you don't want to bring up the bad topic. And so it only comes out when you're upset. That's the worst time to have it. Bring up the things that, and like I said, like we said before, when you're angry, it comes out as what you don't like. When you are in a good place, you can just say, hey, I would like for you to do this. It's like, okay, cool. I'll do that. And it's so amazing how easily things can be communicated when they're actually communicated.
Yeah.
For understanding and said to peers. Like, said, I want you to understand what I'm saying because I want you to do the things that I'm asking of you, or I want you to actually hear my expectations. And then we can actually get somewhere. So we talked about in this episode, Black women not being given the credit for their involvement in so much of what we see around us. Now, the most popular thing when it comes to women right now in, social media culture, pop culture, news culture, is the Me Too movement. Now, I was told that the Me Too movement was started by a Black woman. And I started to hear this because the first time I heard Me Too was, around this whole Hollywood thing and some actresses getting up during, like, I don't know if it was the Oscars or Golden Globes. It was one of those award ceremonies, and then they started to really call out sexism and misogyny in Hollywood. But
And sex abuse, sexual abuse and harassment too.
sexual, yes, abuse, harassment, rape, like really horrible, unacceptable things, right?
Right.
So I believe, yeah, it's Tarana Burke actually coined the term Me Too and the hashtag all the way back in 2006 on MySpace. Now, we know that was a long time ago.
Okay.
So, and she's a victim of sexual abuse and now an activist. And she coined this Me Too to show just how pervasive sexual assault is. Because it's not just one person. There are a lot of people who, they internalize the shame of what happened to them. Sometimes people blame themselves. And so by creating a movement around allowing those people to understand that it's not just you, that there are other people going through it as well, that would allow more women to speak up about the realities so that more people can take it seriously, so we can put an end to it, right? And now that even that Me Too has been co-opted, and then you don't really even hear about Tarana Burke or her influence, and you rarely even see Black women at the face of the Me Too movement.
Right.
Now, Michelee, being a Black woman, what do you think of the Me Too movement, its origins, and where it is now?
I mean, like you said, Miss Tarana Burke, she did, I know her for being, like starting the movement. And, I think, like you said, is to show how everyone, you know what I mean? Like basically show strength in numbers, and to say like, let's try to change the narrative by, and change this the whole scenario by like all calling it out and saying you're not alone. Because a lot of times what happens is when we're in these situations, like throughout Hollywood and the music industry, regular jobs, a lot of times we'll hear stuff like, well, the woman had to sleep her way up the line, you know what I mean? Or to get this particular job, she had to sleep with somebody or whatever. And a lot of those times though, like it's become so normalized that we've accepted that, and we'll put those type of expectations on people. Or like, even again, as women, sometimes we'll kind of question like, what did she do to get that job? Or, but without even calling out the foul behavior of the men that are participating in this, that are forcing these women in this situation. And a lot of times it's not voluntary. A lot of times, like we've seen with recent rape charges and stuff, these powerful men in these higher positions who have been doing this repeatedly because they get away with it, and so this whole movement was started to kind of basically to have these women like join forces, and whoever else notices it, to call it out and stand together, stand strong in it. But like you said, it has been co-opted, and I didn't learn that she was the one who started it until probably about 3 years ago. And that's because I follow somebody, like it's a designer who I follow who's close friends with her. And so that's the first time that I saw her, and she's involved in a few other, movements. Like she is an activist. She's a survivor of sexual harassment, rape and stuff like that. And so she is a, like a leading woman activist. And so I hadn't heard about her specifically, but of course, like you just said, a lot of non-Black women have spoken up on this topic, and it does seem like they have like co-opted the whole movement without even just kind of like with just overshadowing the women who started, the woman who started it, and other women who it affects. It's like we just see this one image. Even when we think about like feminism, we think about the pink hats, you know what I mean? And that's why it's like so hated, even amongst Black women, and other, non-white women are feeling like it's like it's a battle almost. I asked a question on my social media a couple weeks ago, if you like for people to express what they feel most comfortable identifying as womanist or feminist or neither,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or something else. There are so many different types. I wanted to point it out when we were talking about womanism versus feminism,
Mm-hmm.
pointing out like all the different types of feminism there are. Like there's
Yeah.
white feminism, you know, or what's supposed to be mainstream feminism, black
Mm-hmm.
feminism, womanism, Africana womanism, queer feminism, all these different types of, you know, because there are like, it does seem like these movements, once it gets like reaches the hands of a certain group, there is exclusion. And then you get to people want to be more specific
Mm-hmm.
about their struggles, because our struggles are different. They're unique. You know, we are unique people in unique situations. And so I think I feel more comfortable with identifying with womanism, because just from that whole like family oriented aspect, and like
Mm-hmm.
having it recognize my whole being. But when it comes to like, you know, like women activists leading movements like Tarana Burke starting the Me Too movement, it does feel, you know, again, it's like we're left out again. So I don't know. It's like we keep running into the same situation. Like we can put ourselves on the front line. We can start these movements. We can be encouraging everybody and being courageous and stepping out, even, you know what I mean, even experiencing the abuse and the trauma. And then we still tend to be left out at the end of the day. So like what do we
So
do?
one of the things about ASAP, it's a playbook. It's
Mm-hmm.
African Social Activism Playbook, right? So one of the main components of this playbook that we are building, that we're writing and also presenting to people on a almost daily basis, is to be able to give credit where it's due, and also blaze that and continue to walk down that trail and follow that influence, but not just following the influence and saying, oh man, look at this is already here and the person, you know, signed it, let me cover it up with dirt. No, it's, oh, this was already here, let's walk down this path that has clearly been paved for us, and let's
Right.
name the path after the person who created it, right? And
Yeah.
so everything that we're doing, like we said, when we, you know, release the social activism playbook, it's going to have the tools in there from people who have been influencers. It's going to have their credit fully acknowledged in the work and their value of what they put into it. So what we're doing is one step of it is writing an actual, you know, booklet to get people involved in activism, while at the same time it being like a history lesson,
Yeah.
but not a boring history lesson, a history lesson in these are things that you should be doing. If we want to be involved, if we want to advance as a people, we don't have to start all the way over from the beginning, because people have already done great work. They've
Yeah.
already shown us what to do. Now let's give them credit as we continue to do it. So with places like this, the Tarana Burks of the world, the Ida B. Wells of the world, the Ella Bakers of the world won't be forgotten, because we are continuously pushing it out there.
Right.
This is just one platform. We're on YouTube, on Facebook. We're doing this video presentation, right? We're doing a talk show, but then it's also an actual book that people can say, oh man, this happened to me. I'm going to respond in this way. I like this response. Oh, I'm going to draw up this play. Or, you know, these are some of the things that we need to do to prevent these things from happening, because
Right.
this person already showed me how it's done.
Yeah.
And that's just one way that we are contributing to making sure that our narratives aren't being swept over, and making sure that Black women are elevated to a point, because a lot of work by Black women has been done behind the scenes. but behind the scenes work is very necessary to the overall success of everything that we do.
Right.
And a lot of that is the strategy part. Like a lot of the behind the scenes work is really the most important, because if you don't have the strategy in place, it's all going to fall apart, and it's just going
And
to be a moment. It's not going to be a
yeah.
movement.
And also just like I know, in this age of social media and stuff and this instant fame and gratification and stuff, that people are indulging in, it's just like we have to also just be aware of those who, and I mean, it seems like sometimes like people, we shout out our ideas and, just regurgitating information and stuff to like make ourselves seem, like this whole woke conversation that we were having a couple weeks ago, just criticizing and constantly just trying to pick apart things.
Mm,
And I think also like that background work is very necessary. Um, and I think we need to like, even when we see someone who is on the forefront, like we need to also, like you were talking about, not deifying them and picking apart anything about them, that you don't like. So now this person is not a value, or this person is a phony, or, some of us, just like we have different learning styles, different teaching styles. If that's not who you will receive your message from, you can go and receive it from somebody else, right? Like allow, if I'm more stern and, serious and you finding it hard to receive the message, and I'm telling you, there's somebody else who is saying the same thing, but in a more entertaining way to make it more digestible for you, and I think
mhm.
that's also a part of like giving people that space to be themselves and do their work. And instead of us tearing those people down, and a lot of times these are the women, because they'll be the first to be torn down, like they'll be criticized, picked apart by
Mhm.
everyone. And it's already something like to be courageous enough to put yourself out there, to speak for the people or to
Yep.
do the work that needs to be done. So we need to also be very aware, be conscious of how we are treating people who are doing that hard work, because a lot of times we extra critical about what other people are doing, but not thinking about, well, the process of even stepping out there to do it. Like, what are you doing? Are you doing a better job at it? Are you going to be contributing? Are you counseling? Are you just
Mm,
going to cancel them, because you don't like something that they said, or the way they said it, or how they look and how they sound, their tone? Like, there are so many other people. There's information out there for you to look up. There are steps that you could be taking to add, to this situation, to be a part of the solution. So we gotta look at those women too, because they're women. I know we talk about leaders. We deified, like all of these past leaders in the civil rights movement, in the Black Power movement, and stuff like that. And we see where that led us. When you lose faith in that person, now the whole movement fall apart. You know what I
yep.
mean? We have to avoid doing that. So that will be important also. And checking that out in the social activism playbook is, you can see where you fit in. You can see what's right for you, what fits right for you, and basically, everything you said about it.
Yeah. And we just have to be responsible. The message behind this, a woman's worth, this thread, this theme of episodes, is about really our accountability. Men
Mm.
just listening and believing, and listening and believing, and not always having to have a response,
Mm.
and not having to try to just listen and not take things personally, and see, okay, so this is happening. All right. And then talk through it and figure out how you can contribute. Like we said, for me, I know I'm going to try to, when COVID clears up, I'm going to start hosting spades games with some married men and some single men, and just
Mm.
bring up topics
That sounds
and just
wonderful.
have it done in a way that no, this isn't the heavy talk session, but as we're talking about what LeBron did last night, we can talk about something else as well. We can just integrate it into regular conversations where it don't have to be this halt, this big stoppage of
Right,
everything.
right, right.
And that's, people don't like those conversations because it feels like, okay, this is about to be heavy. But if it's just a part of everyday conversation, and I think I said this somewhere before, if you wash your car every week, then there's not dirt that's going to be caked up on it. But if you wait every quarter to wash it, it's going to be harder.
Right.
So if we wait for 5 years to have these conversations, or we can just put it into our everyday dialogue, when you bring it up, it doesn't hurt as much. It's not as heavy because it's one issue and not all the issues on the planet and trying to come out at once. So, I believe having these types of dialogues more often will help make it that much less awkward and, more comfortable.
And frustrating.
Right.
You
People
won't
will
feel
be less
attacked.
bitter. People will be less defensive. Exactly. All of those things. So, it's on all of us. But I just want men to leave here saying, have I given the women in my life their I am moment? Or do I always expect them to be what I expect of them? And then ask yourself as a man, do I do the same thing to the men in my life? And just ask yourself those two questions and then, hold yourself accountable to whatever the answers are.
And what I perceive like womanism to be doing is also like I said, is family oriented, right? We're thinking about everybody involved. This is our community, and I think it challenges, and what I try to do is to challenge men to look at, like, to reflect on and redefine your manhood. Forget what society told you you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? Forget what all of these different boxes that you're supposed to fit in, or this one box you're supposed to fit in that's supposed to define your manhood and your humanity. Because at the end of the day, it would help us. It will help us. The women, the people who fall victim to the toxic behavior, they will be helped. You know what I mean? You will be helped. You will feel lighter, knowing that you don't have to fit this box of what a man is supposed to be. And because a lot of those toxic traits that women end up being victimized, or other people that are victimized by this toxic behavior, you'll be benefiting from it as well. It won't just benefit us. You'll be benefiting from it, and be freed from all of those different, that box, the restrictions.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is where we're going to leave you guys today. Tomorrow, we're going to do our volume 4 of A Woman's Worth, and it's going to be another interesting conversation, but a necessary one. Michelee, let the people know where they can find you and how they can support you.
You can find me at mishmashworld.com or mishmashworld on Instagram for my business page, and Michigan Maker on social media otherwise.
And you guys can follow along with the work of African Unity Initiative at africanunity.us and everywhere at African Unity on all social media platforms. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We love you. And as always, peace.